I'm going to talk about art today. Somehow the literary art has always made a huge impact on me. So I'm going to just talk about it because it's important for our species as human race. I always thought it was important for our children, and that's the reason I'm going to talk about it today. I'm going to talk about one literary character, one literary fictional piece, which impacted so much on the modern day crime investigation. Sherlock Holmes, everybody knows him. We will talk a little more about him, his techniques that he used. Arthur Conan Doyle, when he first came up with this character in 1887, already, which is like 130 years back, he did not probably imagine that his work would have so much impact on probably everything that modern day crime investigation today does. His character would probably become bigger than him. So who is Sherlock Holmes at the end of it? He's just a recluse, a sociopath, a genius, probably a visionary, but he was the ultimate anti-hero, actually. He was probably the first anti-hero that we've ever had, with a deeply complex character, and so ingrained in pop culture that finally most people forgot that it was fiction. He had to be resurrected like Jesus Christ at some point, because when the author decided to kill him, it didn't really work with public. What are his contributions? His contribution is largely towards forensic science. In 1920, forensic science actually became forensic science, but it was predated from 1887. 33 years before forensic science actually became science, it was spoken of in his books. Deductive reasoning was one of the most important subjects that Sherlock Holmes actually brought to us. Then came his ability to do research or investigations right on site, which was never police work before that. Bodies were moved to the morgue before he would do it. Password that we talk about, password protection. He started doing data analysis and breaking passwords and actually working towards it way back before anybody else thought of it. Mapping of geographic profiling, which we know it today as behavioral science, was discussed and deducted in his books then, which was probably predated nearly 100 years before it actually became scientific work. Polygraph tests, which is now a standard across the world, was his way of detecting how a body reacts to a particular question, whether you start to sweat, whether your heartbeat changes. All of this was in his books. Sherlock Holmes went on to be the first person who came into the tradition of going undercover, full with makeup and costume design, which probably it was him who brought into play. To conclude, the work of one literary artist, just one, has had so much of an impact on one major subject on investigation that which was probably not known to the author himself at that point in time. And interestingly, he's not the only one. Da Vinci, who was an engineer as well as a scientist, and who managed to dream, who managed to imagine, who managed to draw, and eventually who's been credited with the discovery of a parachute and a tank. You know, for me, the written word is extremely important. That's why I always think that it can start anywhere. It can start as early as while you're a child. And for me, it started developing then, and reading became so important to me, and therefore I'm reading even now. Today, there are companies, there's Apple, I still love their AirPods ever since I have them, and Tesla is right now trying to put cars in space. That's the power of creativity, that's the power of imagination. That's how I see it. There are countries like Singapore or Dubai where they went on to do things which probably were not even imagined. To me, therefore, creativity has always been a precursor to science. Thank you.